Welcome to the Covert Narcissism Podcast. I'm your host, Renee Swanson. I am not a therapist, and you are not a victim. It's Friday night. Everyone's finally home. The kids are hungry, you're hungry, and after a long week, you're all looking forward to ordering pizza and watching a movie together, like you have so many times before. You ask the kids, "Hey, do you guys want pizza?" "Yes," they eagerly shout. "Okay, great. What kind of pizza does everyone want?" They start throwing out ideas. "Let's get pepperoni. Can we do half veggie, half cheese?" Everyone's laughing. We're tossing pillows on the couch and we're queuing up Netflix. And then here he comes. And I say he because that was my situation, but it could easily be here she comes. Your covert narcissistic partner walks in, and suddenly the entire mood shifts. "I don't want pizza," they say, with this heavy, loaded tone that everyone in the house knows to fear. You try to stay upbeat. "Oh, okay, well, then what do you feel like?" He shrugs. "I don't care, just not pizza." But you know that he definitely does care, and you're now stuck trying to figure it out. So you pause the movie that's getting queued up, you scroll through DoorDash, and you offer 3 other suggestions. Each one is met with a huff or just silence. Ugh, you wanted this to be an easy evening. You were looking forward to it. The kids are getting restless, your stomach's in knots because you know where this is headed, and without saying another word, he just struts out of the room. Finally, you turn to the kids and you say, "Hey guys, let's just forget the pizza. Let's order what your dad wants. Let's just make this easy." And just like that, a fun family night becomes another night where everyone learns the unspoken rule. We're only allowed to be happy if he's happy first. And tomorrow, this will all happen again with different details, but the same problem. Welcome back to the Covert Narcissism Podcast, where we shine a light on the emotional gymnastics that you've been doing just to avoid their next meltdown or outburst. And we call out the emotional hostage situation that's disguised as family harmony. Today's topic is one that hits close to home for so many survivors. That exhausting, never-ending effort to keep the peace. And if you've lived that, you know what I'm talking about. Not because peace is genuinely possible, but because you know what happens when the covert narcissist doesn't get their way. And everyone around them, in your close circle, in your intimate family, they know it too. So what happens? Everyone bends. Everyone adjusts. Everyone tap dances. Everyone gives in, just to avoid the next emotional explosion or implosion or silent treatment or passive-aggressive war zone. All of this that breaks out when they're unhappy. Let's talk about what this looks like and how it affects the families, especially your kids, and why it's so crazy important to break this cycle. There's an emotional tax that everyone pays when you're dealing with a covert narcissist. When you live with or were raised by a covert narcissist, you start learning very young or very early that their mood controls the whole emotional climate of the house. If they're happy, everyone can breathe. You can laugh, relax, make plans. But if they're in a bad mood, if they're stressed, disappointed, or God forbid, feeling criticized, the whole house gets swallowed in this emotional quicksand. It's like a black cloud just takes over your home. Dinner plans change, conversations get tense and uncomfortable, kids walk on eggshells, and adults, they start playing this game of what can we do to fix it? But let's call it what it really is. Emotional hostage taking. Their unhappiness holds everyone else hostage. And because nobody wants to live in a war zone, we give in. Before kids can even read, they already know who the most difficult person in the house is. They already know how to tap dance around this parent's moods. Life with a covert narcissist becomes centered around this concept of the path of least resistance. You're looking for the way that is the easiest way to peacefulness. Well, guess what that way is? to give in, to tap dance around their moods, to give in to their wants and desires and needs, to fix everything for them. And it starts with small things. You pick the restaurant that they want. You cancel your plans to avoid a fight. You rearrange holidays so they won't sulk. But over time, this becomes a pattern. You find yourself managing their mood like it's a full-time job. And if you're the partner of a covert narcissist, you've probably said things like, just let them have their way. It's not worth the fight. Or if we do this, at least they won't be mad all weekend. Or just say yes, otherwise we'll pay for it later. And here's the heartbreaking part. You start recruiting others into that dance, especially your kids. You start telling your kids things like, just do what your dad wants so that we can have a peaceful night. Or don't upset your mom right now, she's already stressed. Or let's just change the plan so they don't get angry. Just do it their way, it's easier. And without realizing it, you are teaching your kids the same survival strategies that you had to learn. You're showing them that their feelings, their opinions, their thoughts don't matter. What matters is keeping the covert narcissist happy. That is top priority. And that peace only comes when you abandon your own needs. Sadly, I taught that to my own kids. I remember saying these things to them. I remember saying them, can't you just do it his way? And I sit here today wishing that I could change those words. So I share this message with you, parents out there, so that you can change your words. Now, this applies not only to a covert narcissistic spouse or partner. This concept also applies to those who were raised by a covert narcissistic parent, our kids, or maybe you. Maybe you were raised by a covert narcissistic parent, or maybe you have a covert narcissistic sibling. If you have these traits within your family of origin, then you know this dance all too well. With that covert narcissistic parent, you and your siblings were tiptoeing around these same landmines that I'm talking about, doing things their way just to keep the peace. It was the path of least resistance. If you stood up for yourself, you were labeled as the one being difficult. Never mind the one who created the situation in the first place. No, that label was given to you. And now, as an adult, maybe you're still being asked to sacrifice yourself for the sake of keeping the peace. You want to spend the holidays your way? Nope. You're being difficult. You're causing division in the family. Can't you just do this one thing for your family, your mother, your father? If you set a boundary, suddenly you're the problem. You're selfish. You're dramatic. You're ruining the family. And here's the real kicker. You're the one being asked to change. Even though you're not the one creating the emotional chaos, you're the one that's called on to fix it. You're the one that's reached out to by your siblings and your family around you saying, can't you just go make peace with them? So what does this do to your mental health? Here's what long-term peacekeeping does to you. Chronic anxiety. You live in a state of hypervigilance, constantly monitoring their mood, whether that be a family member or whether that be your spouse. Loss of identity. Your wants, needs, and preferences, they get buried under years of accommodation and obligation. Resentment. Deep down, you're angry. How could you not be? This would be, of all things in life, this is one thing that should make you angry, but you can't safely express it. Guilt. You feel bad when you do stand up for yourself because you've been conditioned to believe that it's your job to keep them happy. So then you feel bad when you don't give in. Cognitive dissonance. You are defending your actions when you're right. You are expressing that the problem truly lies within this antagonistic and toxic person, and yet you have to defend yourself for being right and for setting boundaries or for wanting to do something your way. For the kids that are raised in this environment, they learn that love equals self-abandonment. Because we love someone, we are supposed to give in to their moods, their needs, their opinions, their thoughts. We don't learn to compromise, we learn to give in. No matter how ugly this narcissistic person is, we learn to give in because that's how we make peace. And then we learn as kids, they learn that that's what love means. They also learn that speaking up equals conflict and that conflict must be avoided at all costs. We can't have conflict. And if we speak up, we're the ones causing the conflict. No, the narcissistic parent, the narcissistic spouse, they're the ones causing the conflict. And it's time we put blame where blame belongs. Our kids are learning that their needs are secondary, always, that it is better to give in than to speak up for yourself. And that's how
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like aloe or skins, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. With Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts are going abandoned and way more sales happening. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skins uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
generational trauma is getting passed down from generation to generation. Now, let's be brutally honest here. Giving in might create temporary calm. Yes, I get that. That's why we do it. But it does not create peace. I mean, has it created peace in your world? It doesn't. It certainly didn't in mine. It doesn't create peace. It doesn't create safety. It doesn't create connection. And aren't these the things we're after? It creates compliance. It creates emotional suppression. And it feeds this narcissistic cycle. Because every time you bend, you are reinforcing the message, if you make enough noise, I will cave. You are rewarding the very behavior that you hate. Now, I'm not faulting you at all for this. I did it myself for years, more than a decade. I get it. I understand why this happens. It was my path of least resistance. It was the only way I could get peace. But over time, the demands grow, the mood swings get worse, the control gets tighter. You're not keeping the peace. You're just prolonging the war. Listen to that again. You're not keeping the peace. You're just prolonging the war. I see that now, but I certainly didn't see it then. So how do we start breaking this pattern? Now that we've called this out for what it is, let's talk about what breaking this cycle actually looks like. First, let's be real here. This is not easy work. I know that. I know it firsthand, especially when this pattern has been running in your household for years or in your family of origin for all of your life. You're not just changing one interaction. You're actually dismantling a whole emotional system, but it can be done. So let's talk about where this starts. Number one, name the pattern. Name it out loud and often. Awareness is the first step. I've said this often. In fact, I've said awareness is steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Awareness is huge, but saying things out loud even takes it a step further. It's one thing to think in your head, ugh, here we go again. It's another thing to pause in the moment and say, even quietly to yourself, this is that thing where we all bend over backwards so that you don't get upset. You might not say it to them, I understand that, but say it to you. You might even say, I'm about to make a choice that's not actually mine, just in an effort to keep the peace. But I recognize that I'm prolonging the war. If you're working with a therapist, a coach, or even a supportive friend, start talking through these moments. Build language around it so that it makes it easier to talk about. Label it every single time you see it happening, because what stays unnamed stays in control. So name it. Number 2, and this is a huge, huge thing. Stop recruiting others, especially your kids. Now, this part is tough. You've been doing it for survival for years, maybe even decades, but you've got to stop passing this burden down. I cannot stress that enough. You have to stop this for yourself and for those in your care. If you've ever caught yourself saying, just do it their way, please don't upset them tonight. Let's just keep things easy. I remember saying this to my own kids. Just do it his way, please. Is it that big of a deal? I made that mistake. I catered to the meanest one in the house, and I reinforced this in my kids. And I beg you, let's stop that cycle. Until I realized it, I didn't know. I'm so grateful that I got my eyes open, and I was able to stop it while they were still in my home. I do wish I had stopped it sooner, but at least it's never too late. You stop it when you can. Take a step back and reconsider this. Putting the burden on your kids or other family members of keeping this narcissistic person happy is a damaging approach. Take a breath and reframe it. So, what do you say? Try saying something like, hey, you know what? It's not your job to manage their mood. Or, you're allowed to have your own feelings about this and your own thoughts about this. Or, we're going to do what's best for us, even if they don't like it. Those small moments of validation like that can start to break this generational cycle. Step 3 is pick small places to hold your ground. I'm not telling you to flip this whole table overnight. In fact, please don't, because that often causes a massive reaction from the covert narcissist. Start small. Pick small places. Tiny acts of reclaiming your voice. Maybe it's not apologizing for something you didn't do. Maybe it's saying, I'm not available for that when they make an unreasonable request. Maybe it's refusing to cancel your plans just because they're pouting. Maybe it's even ordering the pizza that the kids wanted. Let them sulk in the other room if that's what they choose to do. Or they can order their own food if they don't want what the family is having. Pick these small places to start holding your ground. These small boundary wins will build your strength for bigger ones later. Number 4, let them be unhappy. You stay grounded in who you are and in your own peacefulness and happiness. This will probably be an incredibly uncomfortable step because everything in your body has been trained to prevent their unhappiness at all cost. And if you're going through what I went through, your system is responding hard when they are unhappy. But here's the truth. Their emotions are not yours to fix. You are allowed to let them sit with their disappointment, their frustration, their sulking, their silent treatment. These behaviors, these responses are their choice. And when that happens, remind yourself, I didn't cause this. I'm not responsible for this. I'm allowed to hold my boundary even when they are mad about it. It's okay. It will feel awful at first. You may feel guilty. You may second guess yourself, but stay the course. Because every time you survive one of these moments without caving in, you are retraining your nervous system. You are reclaiming your peace. And very importantly, you are showing your kids by example what emotional health really looks like. Now, step number 5 is get support. Please don't do this alone. I cannot stress this enough. You need people in your corner who get it. Now, you don't need a whole army, but you need 1, 2, or 3 people who you can talk to, who understand, that are listening ears that will validate what you're going through. Whether it's a therapist, a trauma-informed coach, a support group, online community of other survivors, family members, a couple of friends, you need a place where you can say, this is happening again. I held my boundary and now I'm shaking. I didn't give in this time, and it feels both terrifying and empowering. You need at least a few people in your world who get it, who can relate to what you're saying and experiencing. Healing from covert narcissistic abuse is not just about education. It's about nervous system repair. It's about unlearning survival patterns. And it's about practicing new ways of being in a relationship. So if you've been listening to this podcast for a while and you're nodding along today, maybe this is a sign to take your next step, to reach out, to find support, to start the work of reclaiming your emotional freedom. Whether it's with me or someone else, find the right spot for you. This is too important of a journey to not take that step. It's a tough journey, but you don't need to do it alone. Next time you hear yourself think, oh, it's just easier to give in, pause, breathe, and remember, easier is not the same as healthier. And short-term peace should not come at the long-term cost of your well-being. I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. You have been listening to the Covert Narcissism Podcast, where we break apart the insidious nature of these incredibly destructive and frustrating to the ends of the earth individuals. If you are struggling with the isolation, overwhelming self-doubt, and obsessive ruminating, you are not alone. I offer live, personalized coaching that is specific for you. This coaching can be individual or group sessions, or a combination of the two. You can find all the information at covertnarcissism.com. Reach out anytime. My email address is Renee, R-E-N-E-E, at covertnarcissism.com. And remember, I am not a therapist and you are not a victim, but I am a coach and you are a survivor. The information provided by Renee Swanson, Covert Narcissism Podcast, and CNG Life Coaching is for educational purposes only and is not to be used for diagnosis purposes. It is not intended to be a substitute for clinical care. Please consult a health care provider for guidance specific to your case. This material discusses narcissism in general. Renee shares stories from her personal experience as well as from those she has talked with for several years. Her material does not claim that any specific person has narcissism and should not be used to refer to any specific person as having narcissism. Permission is not granted to link to or repost this material to support any allegation or claim that any specific person is a narcissist. That would be an unauthorized misuse of the material and information provided.